I honestly still can't believe it came to this, but let me just start with the moment everything shattered. My brother, Ethan, stood there, practically vibrating with entitlement, and he didn't ask. He demanded cancel your doctor's appointment and take me to my game. I looked him right in the eye, clutching the car keys in my hand, and I just said no. I absolutely will not. The fallout from that single word, that refusal, was something I could never have prepared for. You know, I've spent my entire life trying to be the good daughter, the responsible older sister, the one who cleans up every mess. But in that moment, when my own health was on the line, I chose myself for the first time, and the consequences were immediate and catastrophic for our entire family dynamic. I'm telling you this whole story now because I need to know, truly, fundamentally, was I wrong for finally putting myself first? Tell me, honestly, if you would have done the same thing. This whole mess started not last Tuesday, but years ago, rooted in the way my parents raised us, or maybe the way they didn't raise Ethan. He's 3 years younger than me, but he's always been the golden child, the star athlete, the charismatic one, the boy who could do no wrong in their eyes. Me? I was the invisible one, the planner, the straight, a student whose accomplishments were always quietly acknowledged but never celebrated with the same fanfare as Ethan's latest soccer goal. Basketball win. Our lives revolved around his schedule. My after-school job had to be flexible for his practice pickups. My weekend plans, constantly interrupted because he needed a ride somewhere or needed me to cover a shift at home so Mom and Dad could watch him play. It was exhausting, a constant low-level resentment that I just swallowed down because, well, that's what good sisters do, right? They sacrifice. The issue that brought us to that boiling point was my health. For months, I'd been experiencing persistent, terrifying headaches. Not just regular tension headaches, but debilitating vision, blurring migraines that would sometimes leave me curled up in a dark room, vomiting. I tried over-the-counter medication, changing my diet, everything. After a lot of pushing from a concerned friend, I finally scheduled an appointment with a neurologist. This wasn't just a regular checkup. This was the first step in figuring out if something seriously wrong was happening inside my head, something that could potentially change my life forever. The appointment was highly sought after, scheduled for 11:00 a.m. on a Saturday, a time slot that I had to book almost 2 months in advance. I'd told my parents, I'd told Ethan, everyone knew this was important, a non-negotiable event on my calendar. I even put up a note on the fridge. Ethan, of course, had a regional basketball tournament. It was a big deal for his team, a potential scouting opportunity, and the game was scheduled for 10:30 a.m., an hour's drive away. He was 17, he had his learner's permit, but he was never allowed to drive my car, a rule my parents enforced strictly because, well, Ethan was easily distracted. That morning, I was meticulously reviewing the directions to the neurologist's office, feeling a knot of anxiety mixed with hope in my stomach, when Ethan burst into the kitchen. My parents were already gone. They had left for an early brunch with their friends, a social event they considered more important than either my appointment or Ethan's game, apparently leaving us to figure out the logistics. This wasn't unusual. When it came to things that weren't directly related to Ethan's sports schedule, my parents were often conveniently absent. He came in, not even a good morning, just a panicked, accusatory glare. My ride fell through. He snapped, tossing his gym bag onto the counter. Mark's car broke down. You have to take me. I looked at the clock. It was 9:45 a.m. I needed to leave by 10:00 a.m. to make my appointment on time. His game started at 10:30 a.m., an hour away. It was a logistical nightmare, and his tone made it clear he expected me to solve it, as I always did. I calmly explained, Ethan, I can't. My appointment is at 11. It took me months to get it, and it's important. It's about these headaches. He scoffed, a truly dismissive sound that made my blood boil. Headaches, you just need some Tylenol. This is the regional final. A college scout might be there. It's way more important than some appointment about a little headache. And that's when he hit me with the demand. Cancel your doctor's appointment and take me to my game. The casual way he dismissed my pain, my fear, my health, was the final straw in years of unspoken resentment. It was then, standing in the kitchen, feeling the throb behind my left eye, that I made my choice. I had always backed down. Always, I'd missed my senior prom dress, shopping to drive him to an emergency away game. I'd deferred a semester of college prep to cover his summer job when he broke his ankle. I sacrificed everything, but this was about my literal, physical well-being. This was my body telling me that something was wrong, and I wasn't going to ignore it anymore. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Ethan was waiting for the automatic compliance he was so used to. When I finally said, "No, I absolutely will not," his face went from demanding to genuinely shocked, then instantly to furious. He started yelling, truly loud, vicious things, calling me selfish, a bad sister, saying I was jealous of his success, and that I was trying to sabotage his life. He even grabbed my keys, but I yanked them back. I told him he needed to find another ride, that he could call a cab, he could call one of his teammates, but I was going to my appointment. I didn't owe him anything, and my health mattered too. So that's the situation I was in. My brother, who has always put his desires above my needs, was demanding I cancel a critical, months-in-the-making medical appointment so he wouldn't miss a basketball game because his own plans fell through. My parents were conveniently absent, placing the burden squarely on my shoulders. I was seconds away from finally taking care of my own potentially serious health crisis. Before I tell you what happened next, what I actually did as he stood there raging, and what the final, life-altering consequences were, I want you to pause right here. Take a breath and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have caved, swallowed your pride and pain, and driven the golden child to his game? Or would you have driven yourself to that neurologist's office and let the chips fall where they may? Let me know your honest thoughts, because what happened next shocked even me. I looked at the clock again, 9:55 a.m. I had 5 minutes. His fury was a palpable, ugly thing in the room. He was still screaming, but his words were just background noise now. My vision tunneled. I thought about the pain, the fear, the weeks of wondering, what if it's a tumor? I thought about how for years I've had to make myself smaller, quieter, and less important so Ethan could shine. And I realized that if I gave in this one last time, there would never be an end to it. This pattern of sacrifice would define my entire life. So, without another word, I walked straight out the door, got into my car, and locked the doors. Ethan hammered on the passenger window, yelling, "You'll regret this. You're ruining my future." I put the car in reverse, backed out of the driveway, and drove away, leaving him standing there in the middle of the yard, watching me go. I drove straight to the neurologist's office. I made the appointment. I checked in, sat in the waiting room, and tried to calm the frantic, panicked guilt thrumming in my chest. I kept checking my phone, but there were no calls from Ethan, no texts, just silence. He must have figured something out. I finally had my appointment, and the doctor was kind, thorough, and ran a battery of tests, including scheduling an MRI. When I left the office an hour and a half later, I felt an unbelievable mix of relief and utter terror. Relief that I had taken the first step toward finding an answer, and terror at what the answer might be. I got in my car and immediately called my parents. My mom answered, and I explained everything: the confrontation, my absolute refusal, and the fact that I had gone to the doctor. The silence on the other end of the phone was chilling. It wasn't the sound of a parent realizing their mistake. It was the sound of cold fury. "How could you be so selfish? my mother whispered, her voice tight with controlled anger. Ethan missed the first half of the game, the most important half. His coach called us. He had to scramble for a ride. You ruined his chances with the scout. I tried to argue, to explain the importance of a neurological appointment, but she cut me off. This is your brother's future. Your headaches can wait. I can't believe the betrayal. You put a simple checkup ahead of your family. She hung up. It wasn't the first time my parents had sided with Ethan, but it was the first time they had so explicitly invalidated my well-being. When I got home, the air in the house was arctic. Ethan was slumped on the couch, not even looking at me, but radiating resentment. My parents arrived shortly after, and the ensuing argument was the worst of my life. My father barely spoke, but his disappointment was a heavy cloak. My mother was the main prosecutor. They called me selfish, dramatic, and unsupportive. They claimed I was jealous of Ethan and trying to cut him down. They accused me of orchestrating the entire thing, that I was lying about the severity of my headaches just to ruin his day. The final blow came when my father looked at me, his eyes empty, and said, "We need to talk about you moving out. You are disrupting the peace of this house. If you can't support your brother, you can't stay here." I was 20 years old, paying rent to them, working full-time, and they were essentially kicking me out for going to the doctor. The aftermath was painful and swift. I got the MRI results back a week later. The diagnosis was shocking. Chronic, severe migraines caused by a rare, but life-threatening, structural issue in my neck that needed specialized physical therapy and medication. It wasn't just a headache. It was a serious, debilitating condition that needed immediate and ongoing treatment. I told my parents the diagnosis, thinking, hoping, the seriousness of it would make them apologize. Instead, my mother just said, "See, not a tumor, nothing *serious*." It was confirmation for them that I had overreacted. The final nail in the coffin came a few days later when they decided to give my car. The car I paid for, but which was titled in my father's name for insurance purposes to Ethan. They said he clearly needed a reliable car more than I did, since I was so unreliable with transportation. It was a calculated, devastating act of financial punishment and control. I moved out that week. I scraped together the funds and moved into a tiny, overpriced apartment with a friend. I cut my parents and Ethan off, only speaking to them when absolutely necessary to retrieve my remaining belongings. It's been 3 months since that day. Ethan did not get a scholarship that day. The scout didn't show up. He is still playing basketball, still the golden child, but he's had to deal with minor inconveniences, like having to fill his own gas tank for the first time. My parents have made no effort to apologize, only sending cold, formal messages asking me when I'll come to my senses and realize the importance of family. I, however, am finally getting the treatment I need, and the headaches are less frequent and less severe. More importantly, I am living my life for *me*, finally free from the role of the perpetual caretaker and punching bag. The refusal was the most terrifying and the most important decision I have ever made. It cost me my home and my family's approval, but it bought me my sanity and my health. Was it worth it? Absolutely. I lost a family that never really saw me, but I gained myself. I broke the cycle of sacrifice, and I will never let anyone dismiss my needs again. Like this video if you were on my side and believe everyone has the right to prioritize their health. Subscribe for more stories like this where the invisible sister finally fights back. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Do you think my parents will ever realize their mistake? I'll see you all in the next story.